You don't need to be productive to be worthy. The new belief is I am worthy because I am. I am worthy because I exist. Not only that, but my desires are important to me. I can prioritize myself. And from that, the things that I'm efforting to make happen are done so more beautifully. Dismantle this belief that my productivity creates my worthiness, because that is such an underlying false belief system that is running people ragged and creating dis-ease and illnesses and certain things that we chalk up to life and living and aging and all of these things. But your inherent worthiness is because you're here, not because of what you do.
Welcome to the GenX Shift podcast, a show for Gen Xers who are navigating some pretty tough transitions and aren't sure how to move forward. I'm your host, Michele Walter, proud Gen Xer, former lawyer turned entrepreneur, huge Jason Momoa fan, and margarita snob. And I've navigated a lot of transitions in my life, from losing my mom suddenly to a heart attack to starting my own business. But I often did it all on my own because I was too stubborn to ask for help. Now I'm on a mission to give actionable strategies to other Gen Xers so that they can find the confidence, courage, and clarity they need to make a shift. So let's rock and roll. Hey Gen Xers, welcome back to the podcast. This week, I want you to settle in and saddle up for a powerful conversation that I'm having with my dear friend and fellow coach, Bridgette Simmonds of Bridgette Simmonds International. And the question I want you to reflect on as you're listening to this episode is, what belief systems are you ready to start questioning and challenging because they're bullshit and no longer serving you? That is the work that Bridgette invites us into doing through what she shares today in this episode. She takes us through her journey as a typical Gen Xer of suppressing what her soul, what her inner wisdom really felt she should be doing, which is teaching in the world. And she went on to check the boxes, go through the habits of building a successful career, only to have it all come crumbling down as she lost a job, started making less money, had to short sell her house, her credit went in the crapper, and she was living in an apartment that just wasn't her. And only through that journey did she come back to what she really knew on a soul level when she was young, when she was a child, is that she's here to be a teacher. She became a certified coach, a certified breathwork facilitator, and now she is here to invite all of us to start questioning the bullshit belief systems that we have been conditioned to believe, that we have been raised on, and that have kept us in lives where we are feeling like we're just trapped. We're just martyrs. We just have to deal with the facts of our circumstances every day, and there's nothing we can do about it. Bridgette shares some powerful steps that you can do right now, no matter what your factual circumstances, to start to question those bullshit belief systems. And she's also sharing with us a free resource called Breathe and Believe, 3-minute recess. Recess, can't be a recess. A 3-minute reset, which I'll include the link for that in the show notes. It's something that you can do no matter how busy your day is. You have 3 minutes that you can take to breathe with Bridgette. So I invite you to settle in and saddle up for this conversation because it is jam-packed, and I will catch you on the other side. Hey, Bridgette, thanks for spending time with me today on the podcast.
Hey, Michele, I'm so excited to be here.
We were just talking about our dogs before you came on.
Our fur children.
Yeah, our children, because I think you are the one person whose dog is equally, if not more spoiled than Winnie is. So we were just trying to get Ginger to come say hi to me on camera, but she refused.
She's just doing what she wants to do. And it's funny because my coach a year or two ago, I think it was 2 years ago now at this point, told me, Ginger is here to teach you lessons about boundaries and living in your truth. And so I was to study her for a week and write down the top 10 lessons that she taught me. And it's very true. She really embodies this sense of feminine energy and sense of herself, and will do and not do what she doesn't want to do. And it's clear. Her communication is very clear about it. She'll let you know when you've offended her, when you've hurt her, when she's pleased, when she's not pleased. It is so fascinating how she has helped me to start undoing my people pleasing tendencies. So yeah, it's
I
powerful.
hear that. I always say that Winnie has been my biggest teacher because she is so sensitive. I mean, she is a good part of the reason why I started getting my shit together, still trying to, but really became more aware of it a few years ago, is because she was responding to my anxiety and she was absorbing, because as we know, and we might talk about, everything's just energy. So she's absorbing my energy. And so when I was anxious, she not only was anxious at that same time, but then she just started being more anxious in general. And I had a coach. I had a dog trainer who also happened to be an executive coach come to the house. This is before I enrolled in the coaching program. And the first thing he said when he walked in the door is, tell me what's going on with you. And I'm like, I get it. I'm doing this to my dog, aren't I? I'm doing it. So yeah, they're our best teachers ever. And I love that idea of just observing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's transferable. And actually noting the lessons was a powerful thing for me.
I'm going to try that with Winnie. I had never thought about that because I observe her a lot. But to write things down and really tune in more to how she's responding to her environment would be really helpful.
It's powerful. And writing it as if it's a rule of life. Like, thou shalt not, thou shall, you know?
Oh, I like that.
Like, and not in those terms, but what I wrote it as is, I will always let you know when something, I will communicate my needs at all times, regardless. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, with animals, we don't deserve animals sometimes. I think they're just they're just little angels.
They really are. They're such a gift. Such a gift.
Yeah. Well, I am so honored to have you on the podcast. You've been on my very long list of hopeful podcast guests from the beginning when I first started this, and I reached out to you a few months ago, and we were just finally able to coordinate getting together. So I want to share my personal journey with getting to know who you are, and then we'll jump into the work that you're doing in the world and go from there. But I don't know if I've told you this story. Maybe I have. But back when I was in my coaching program, we both are IPEC coaches, and I think this was in late 2018, early 2019 maybe. And for folks who don't know, this was a 9-month coaching program. We did 3-day live sessions, and then in between all of that, we had online classes that we did every week. And so every week we'd hop on a Zoom, and this was before the pandemic, so this was before Zoom was really popular. So it was my first real introduction to being on Zoom. And we'd hop every week on these live coaching training calls, and there'd be hundreds of people on the call flooding into the Zoom chat going, oh my God, hey, so great to see everybody. Where are you joining from? How's everybody doing today? And I'm like, geez, people tone it down a notch. Like, this was just too much for sarcastic attorney me. I'm like, I don't have time for this shit. So, and every week people would volunteer to be coached in real time on some issue. And so I was usually joining these. I was in a pretty bad place as an attorney at the time, so I was joining them, pretty cranky, pretty sarcastic, not really buying fully into the process at the time. Like, I had all of my own stuff going on. And so one day we get on, and it was the first time you were on one of these calls as one of the coaches. And I instantly thought, there is something going on with this woman. Her energy, her vibe, her whatever you want to call it, just spoke to me. And the way you taught, the way you coached, the way you just were, felt so calming and reassuring to my nervous system. And so when they asked for volunteers, I was like, oh, I'm volunteering for this one. And so you picked me, which I was so grateful for, and you coached me around. At the time, I was still working as an attorney, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And there's Ginger. Hi, Ginger.
Here?
I saw her little head in the corner.
Oh, yeah. Come here.
So,
did you hear that?
her growl.
She's so mean to me.
Hi, Ginger.
Hello.
Oh, I hope people watch on video so they can see that sweet little face. I'm talking about your mommy. How magical she is. So you coached me because I was on the verge of just saying, screw it, I have to leave right now. And you coached me around values. And I'd done a little bit of values work before that, but you coached me on what is the value that you can tap into in those moments when you just want to say, screw it and leave your job, forget about your pension in the future, forget about saving money, all of that. And so I picked the value of freedom. And thanks to you and that coaching session, I stayed, got my 20 years in so that someday I'll get a pension. I did not retire, but it was all because of that coaching session. And so I blame you for being on this roller coaster entrepreneurial journey that I'm on. But I'm also so grateful to you because you are like fairy dust with stars above your head and like all the wild animals coming to sit at your feet, kind of magical. And I just am so grateful to you. So I don't know if I had told you that story.
I did not. I remember coaching you on that call. And I do remember the things that happened thereafter, but I did not know how sarcastically unenthused you were previous to that call. So I thank you for sharing that story with me. And it's even more beautiful and powerful that you share it with me right now as I am on a journey of reinventing myself and my business to really come home to being that person and that guide and that coach for exactly the position you were when we met. So thank you for that trip down memory lane and that reflection.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope that people continue to just get to experience the magic. That's the only word I have for it, that you are. So
thank you.
So you are the founder of Bridgette Simmonds International, and we're going to talk about that. But tell me first, how long have you been coaching?
My answer to that is always, unofficially, my entire life. Unofficially, I've been doing this thing. However, I started in 2013. So at this point, it's been going on 12 years that I have been in the realm of coaching, which is just wild to think about. I have always been that person that people want to talk to from the time I was a little girl, and that I enjoyed engaging and talking with and seeing possibilities in things and the greatness in people and really allowing people to be fully expressed as themselves and feeling safe to do so and be so. Without knowing the words and the language for that, I just always had that within me. So yeah, but 12 years at this point.
So you always felt in some way, even if you maybe didn't realize it at the time, that you were a quote coach, and you weren't always officially working as a coach. So tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming a coach and what the big, if there was one, pivotal moment that made you realize you needed to sort of leave the conventional life and start officially coaching.
Oh, there were a few pivotal moments. I feel like there's always an invitation to pivot before we tend to pivot. So I followed the journey in the well-worn path of what quote unquote success is as an American, especially as a child of immigrants. So my parents both hail from the beautiful island of Jamaica. And as immigrants to the United States, they saw and believed certain careers were the pinnacle of success. And one of those careers was being a doctor. And so from the time I was a little girl, my father, who was the more vocal of the two of my parents, or at least I remember him being so, was always planting the seed of, you're going to be a doctor when you grow up, Dr. Bridgette Simmonds. And so just being an impressionable child, it was programmed in me that I was going to be a doctor. But prior to that, which is so fascinating to look at and understand the power and the knowing of children as tiny humans, is when you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, my answer was teacher. That was my original answer. And so to come back full circle to be exactly what little Bridgette knew she wanted to be is so amazing to me. But that was my initial want to be when I grew up, because I loved the magic that teachers, so it's amazing that you shared that's how I appear to you, as magic. It's that teachers seem to magically transport me to an understanding of myself and the world that it seemed like that was the only place that it happened. But through growing up and being programmed, doctor was implanted, and also starting to realize how little teachers shamefully get paid, it was like, okay, maybe I need to shoot for something more successful. So went to college and started off as a pre-med biology major. After freshman year, I suffered an accident where I got a serious injury on my hand, and I still have if you're watching on video, I'm showing my scar. I have a scar on my right hand that still lives to this day as a physical representation of a pivot moment, because I went to the emergency room to get stitched up, and the woman asked, as you do, a 19-year-old, what are you going to college for? And I said, I'm going to be a doctor. The woman laughed in my face. And so I asked, well, what's so funny? She said, well, you're going to be a doctor, but you fainted twice on the way here to the hospital. And I said, yeah, because I was bleeding to death. And she laughs again, and she's like, you do not have enough blood in that tiny little hand to bleed out. I was like, well, then why did I faint? And she said, because you're squeamish and you're not good with human, bodily functions. And at that moment, it's like she just woke me up from the stupor that I was in, trying to fulfill my dad's dream for me, but not realizing I had a dream for me. So I changed my major after this visit to the ER and going back to college to be a sophomore, to business marketing, because that was far away from anything blood related. Completed my degree, checked the boxes that we got, and got a job, got a cubicle, got all the things that I thought at the time were what was to be a successful, well-adjusted adult. And it was almost immediately within sitting in this world of repetitive days of 9 to 5 and this nature of fakeness that was permeating corporate culture and the office, that because I'm very observant of humans and people, and just I watch and I'm attuned to things and to energies, and I really quickly picked up this just falseness that everyone was pretending for the sake of a paycheck and great benefits, to be able to live in certain neighborhoods and have certain cars. And I didn't like it. It didn't sit well with me, and I hated it. So I shared with my mom, like, is this what it was all for? Was this the path, and this is the gold at the end of the rainbow? And so she gave me a book called To Be Told, which is by Dan Allender, and it's all about what is your story to be told in this life, all figuring out what your life purpose is. And it was in that book that was like the tiniest hint of a pivotal moment, which was, he said, we are here to express a certain way of being that only we can express, that is supportive and helpful to others. And that if everyone operated in their way of being, that just comes naturally to them. It supports other people. It's what someone else needs. And then someone else has something in the way that they be that I need. And that's how, as a community and as a society, we really can elevate. And so that was now a knowing, but at this point, getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and living comfortably became more enticing than now trying to chart a new course and start over. So I was thankful for that book and that information, and it sat incubating in my soul, but I just put my head down and continued to work and seek for promotions and the trappings of work. Well, fast forward, I get laid off in the whole real estate boom and economic crash of 2007 and 8. By this point, I have 2 homes, one in Florida, one in Atlanta, where I live now, and was just completely devastated. And I eventually got a new job in insurance, but that moment of a break in earning this comfortable living that was making me tolerate a dissonance in my soul, that having it ripped from me became a moment of reckoning with myself, where I asked, well, what is all this for? And I remembered the book that I read about, at this point, 9-10 years prior. And it started to germinate a little bit more, but I needed to pay my bills. So I got another job, but this time it was paying way less. I feel like now, to me, that was God's way of like waking me up to the fact that I was off track. And if I continued getting paid well, I would have continued to just justify it. And I couldn't justify it anymore, because at this point I now had, and I've never even shared this out loud, but I had to short sell my home in Atlanta because I could no longer afford both homes in Tampa and in Atlanta. Though I had a renter, it was, I was a big sister through the big sister, little, what is that program called?
Big brothers and sisters. Yeah.
So I had a little sister, and her mom was renting my home for me. So, but she couldn't afford to pay the entire mortgage amount. So I was floating the gap and paying my mortgage in Atlanta. And with this new job that I got after getting laid off, that was getting paid a fraction of what I was getting paid, I had to call it. And I was one of those that prided myself on my credit score and didn't do anything to damage it. And I had to short sell my house, move into this rental that was just, my mom came to visit and she's like, well, it's different from your other houses. I remember her touching
such a mom
counter.
response.
I was like, yep, this is where I'm at now. And it was the lowest point. And at that point also, I was turning 30. I was dating a guy that I thought I was going to marry, because that was another box I needed to check, was get a job, get a degree, check, get a job, check, get a nice home in the suburbs, check, have a nice car, check, get a man and get married, have 2 children. And so I was on the track of what I felt was success. And we broke up. He broke up with me, shattered my heart to pieces, short sailed the home, credits in the can. I move into this home that is like not anything I'm used to. I was at the lowest of the low. And that was a pivotal moment for me where I saw a way to get back home to Florida. And really, it was a way to come back home to myself and the truth of myself. So I reached out to my old boss with my first job out of college, because I heard that there was a woman retiring, and I asked, are you replacing her position? Because I'd like to apply. Because at this point, I had nothing in Georgia for me. No man, the career was not great. My boss at that time was also putting me on a performance improvement plan because he was on a trajectory to get promoted. So he needed to check the boxes of all the things managers should do. It was awful. I was a target. I was crying. It was bad. And they said I could interview for this job back in Florida. And I remember praying. I said, okay, if this is not me running, God, and I'm actually supposed to go back to Florida, and I will know it's my path because it'll be simple. If you do move me back, I will finally be about the business of my purpose. And I interviewed. I got the job. It was smooth. I even got a company car. Like, it was so smooth that I had to make good on my promise. And so when I got back to Tampa, I started going back to school to become a therapist because of that book I read back in the early 2000s when I was complaining to my mom. What I discovered was my gift was talking to people. And so I was still in the formula of success of Americans, which was go to school, get a degree, then get a vocation because of that degree, which Now I know I could have skipped the expenditure and the time of the degree, and I just could have just went to our coaching program for far less. But it's okay. I was still caught in the matrix, and I went to school to get a degree in therapy. And there I thought, that's close, but not exactly what I need. And that's when I found coaching. I found our coaching program. I signed up. And within that first few hours of that first weekend of those 3 that you just talked about, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. And that's my story. So
thank you for sharing that. And there's a couple of things I want to frame in what you said. First of all, you said the word germinate, and what was coming to mind as I was listening to you were all the seeds that were planted along the way. The nurse saying to you, you should not be a doctor. Reading that book, there just are signs, seeds, whatever you want to call it, planted along the way. And yet we often don't get the lesson right then and there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you wanting to be a teacher from a very young age and coming full circle now back through coaching and what you're doing now to a teacher. I feel that is such an important hero's journey. We were talking about the hero, shero journey before we hopped on the recording. That's such an important takeaway because, as you said, we go through life checking the boxes of success and stuffing down or ignoring those parts of us that spoke to us when we were very young. So I know your parents said they wanted you to be a doctor. Were there other messages or experiences that you feel that you had when you were younger that invited you to ignore that teacher voice that was in your soul?
My goodness. Yes, I feel like the messages of society and my peer group around me. There wasn't any other thing to do or be. And also the societal message which is so interesting. I've never gone down a rabbit hole to even discover the historical path of how college became such a well-marketed pinnacle path of success, to the point where I was speaking with some friends this weekend where they were sharing how vocations that are trades are, it's like there's nobody that knows how to do things like plumbing and electrical and just trades, because this messaging was so powerful. Like, it was like, either you go to college or you're nobody. And no one wants to be nobody. So my peer group, it was expected and understood. This is what you do to be successful. And so, yeah, it was all around everywhere that I was. There wasn't anyone I knew that was going to pursue art school or going to a vocation. It was looked down upon. So, yeah.
Do you think that message of you got to go to college, you got to get the specialized degrees, do you think that's more pronounced in communities of color and families of immigrants than it is in other cultures? Because I know a lot of people, same situation as you, families were immigrants, they're first generation Americans, and there is that messaging of you got to go check all those boxes and get the higher education. So I'm just curious, in your experience, do you think that's something that is maybe more prevalent?
Yeah, I don't know. I've not experienced any other culture or asked about it. I mean, maybe you can tell me how that message was given to you or not. So I don't know, but I do know when I do share my story around my immigrant parents and their expectations of me, I often hear the echo back from other immigrants of other cultures too, not multiple cultures. It's anyone that came to the United States from some other land. There has been where they share like, oh my gosh, yes, I was expected to be an engineer, or yes, I was expected to be a lawyer. It had to be one of these three vocations that deemed me acceptable in my parents' sight. So I would imagine it probably is, especially when you're immigrants, because of the level of sacrifice that had to happen. Like, I think about my parents, where my mom was sent here at the age of 10. And I only recently learned this in 2018, sitting at the table with her and her sisters in the UK. And I'm like, what? I always thought that you were sent here at 10 because you were one of 9 in Jamaica and poverty, and they couldn't afford 9 children, so they sent a couple away. And they're like, no. I learned that my grandfather, and this is in the 50s, 60s, that he hand wrote a letter to his family members that had left Jamaica to pursue careers of success, one in New York and one in the UK, and asked, will you take my daughters? Because he had the foresight to see that if they stayed in Jamaica as women, that they would be relegated to certain positions that he didn't want his daughters to be. And I'm like, that makes me emotional. I wish I knew my grandfather. He passed away before I was born, but that is wow. So he sent two daughters to New York, my mom and Aunt Cynthia, and 2 daughters to the UK to live and understand success from that level. And so those 2 in New York, my mom and her sister, became nurses, and then she met and married so that level of sacrifice, I feel, comes with this space and expectation and desire that this generation will be far greater, because we came here for that opportunity to be so. So therefore, let's do this.
What a beautiful story about your grandfather and his foresight.
Isn't it? It touched me so deeply.
Do you feel like you are connected to your grandfather? Do you feel like he speaks to you?
I feel absolutely that there's so much within me. I also learned that he was an entrepreneur, yeah, that he had a tax business in Jamaica. So I for sure have his DNA in me. Without knowing him, I know him in my journey.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Because I fully feel like the seed he planted and set in motion with his desire, and then acting on the desire to send his daughters away to be better, made way for my ability to be better. Because when we women, and I often don't realize this, we're born with all of the eggs we'll ever have at the time of birth, which means that my mother was born at the time of birth with all the eggs that she'll ever have, and so on and so forth. And so the energetic pickup that happened while I was in their body and their body and their body and their body, I carry. So it's inevitable that I would be embodying desires that were unable to be met.
That gave me goosebumps. And I think that is a missing piece for so many, especially Gen Xers, because we weren't really a generation, I'm generalizing here, so I'll speak from my own experience. I definitely was not raised with any spiritual messages. I think the religious messages I had growing up were your typical kind of Christian American, messages. But I wasn't ever raised to think about ancestry. It was just, I was fortunate to know both sets of grandparents and two of my great grandmas. But beyond that, I didn't ever think about ancestors and the ancestors that we carry in us, and that we are their living wishes, which is really powerful. And I think that's a missing piece for a lot of Gen Xers. Have you done ancestry work?
I haven't. I'm a conspiracy.
You have a lot of work.
I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I don't want to willingly give my DNA. Although I'm sure somebody somewhere has it.
Yeah, I hear that. I was thinking more not from the
ancestry. Yes.
Like so healing, ancestral healing. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. In a way I have. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily deep ancestral healing, but just in sessions I've had with healers for sure. Like one I had with this one healer a couple months back, and she notated some energy in my root chakra, which is that chakra of safety, security, creativity, wealth, creation. And she, at the end of the session, said she sensed I was carrying energetic fears that weren't mine. That, oh no, it's unsafe to earn that much. Oh no, don't do that. Don't expand that large. So she felt and sensed and cleared. So yeah, I've definitely done that type of healing work, because to the point that I do absolutely carry the DNA of the power that I possess and that I'm so proud to have. We also carry the energetic frequency of the fear and worry that was very relevant for generations that are not generationally relevant now for me. So yeah.
I hope people really absorb that message, because that's real. I mean, it's real and spiritual, and those aren't mutually exclusive, let me just say. And so for people who haven't gotten curious about their ancestors and doing ancestral healing work, getting more curious about what we carry generation from generation, I highly encourage it, because I had a similar story about a great grandfather whom I never met, that was my dad's grandpa, that turns out was a millionaire, like way back in the day. I mean, this probably would have been like early 1900s in Kearney, Nebraska. He was some kind of blacksmith and did a bunch of stuff, but he hoarded his money under the mattress because he didn't want to put it in a bank. And after he died, his greedy ass sister went and stole all the money from under the mattress. And so when my dad and his dad, my grandpa, went to the house afterwards, all the money, the millions, was gone. And so I'm like, oh, well, that there's a lot to unpack there in terms of my own money wounds and money healing and all of that. So
much. And this is also the power and there's something to be said, and there's something I wanted to do that I've been delaying, and so this conversation is making me really make it happen, is to interview my parents while I have them and ask questions, because there's so much I don't know and won't know and we can't know that we carry and continue to carry. Like that conversation, if I didn't decide to take that trip with my mom to the UK around and sit around the table just listening to her and her sisters, I would have never known this very powerful piece of history.
Do the interviews. Absolutely. Do the interviews.
Yeah.
So coming back to your story a little bit, and I'm particularly curious about the little teacher in you that sat around for a couple decades waiting for you to come back to her. Do you think, and I know each person is different, but do you think it's possible for people to not have to go down the twisty-turvy, check-the-box of success path in order to return back to what was speaking to them when they are younger? Or do you think our generation is just, we're kind of cursed that way? We get disconnected from our from what we truly want on a soul level to check the boxes of success, and then like 20 or 30 years later we come back to it? Like, is there hope for
There's absolutely hope. And because we're having conversations like this and the people that are listening where they feel something in the hearing of this, and also it's become the reason why I do the work that I do, and that I'm even more dialing into this work that I do in my business. So there is absolute hope. And I also feel like there's purpose in every single thing. I feel like us being in the generation where many of us were indoctrinated into this path and sold what success was, and that we were programmed that, well, first of all, let me begin with what I believe that I just latch onto and love. I fully feel like our souls chose everything about our experience. That we chose to be exactly this generation where we could both and appreciate no technology and still be young enough to understand and grasp it and to play with it. And so what I also feel like we've chosen is to be privy to the generations that are coming after us, that aren't taking the crap we took and that aren't buying the crap we were sold. And I feel like they come along to welcome and introduce us to questioning everything that we've been told. And then I also feel like in a way that we came along to help the generation previous to us question everything that they were told in its own way. So I think that the passage of time and the understanding of things is not to be seen as a curse, because there is something to be said for the ability to create and recreate and reinvent ourselves time and time again. That is the ultimate gift of a life, is to not remain the same throughout your lifetime, and that we constantly get invitations to evolve and to change and to grow, and we get the choice to accept the invitation or to decline it. And many times, because of comfort, because of fear, because of so many belief systems and just things, we keep choosing the same. But in misery, in frustration, in irritation, in anger, in utter pain, there's purpose in it. And we have the capacity and the ability, especially within community and within relationship. And I was listening to one of your past episodes where we have this hyper independence as our generation, as latchkey kids and all of that. And I feel like the invitation to be in community and with one another is the ability to be able to say yes to an invitation, to feel the discomfort of a yes to the invitation. But that's our ability to alchemize and spin and utilize that energy of irritation, frustration, hopelessness into something that we feel so utterly proud of. Because what's the opposite? Oh, okay, I knew ever since I was young I wanted to be a teacher. That was completely bolstered and edified, and my flames were fanned, and now I'm a teacher. Okay, great. At some point, I'm going to have gone through something that created a level of grit and of fortitude, because I've seen it too, where people are given every single thing and they haven't had to become anything. Typically, they find themselves in spaces of addiction and things, because now I'm trying to find that aliveness and that human desire for a struggle to overcome when it hasn't happened. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like I used
Yes.
to work in a rehab facility for drug and alcohol when I was in my to become a therapist. It was one of my things I had to do. And we used to have these weekends that were family weekends, where the family of the addict in treatment would come in, and I would lead these circles of forgiveness and communication circles between families. And every now and again, we'd have a younger person within therapy. Most of the people were, and in fact, it's ironic because the rehab facility I worked in, the target audience was people like you, lawyers, doctors. They were high earners that were addicts, because they wanted a special place to deal with their addiction that was confidential, private, but that they related to each other. And it was fascinating because every now and again we'd get a young person that was in their 20s. And I remember this one particular young man where I was leading this communication/forgiveness circle where we had these exercises. They sat in front of loved ones and read through and apologized for the trouble that they caused in their addiction. And I remember this one tearful young man, he was 23 years old, and he was in tears. And through tears, he said to his parents, "Sometimes I wish we were not rich and that you didn't give me everything that I wanted. You sent me to college. You bought me my condo. I didn't need anything. So I turned to drugs to create excitement in my life." Like, what? Mm-hmm. He was like, "I wish you would have let me struggle a little bit because then I would have known who I am. I don't know who I am." So no, I don't feel like it's a curse to go down a quote unquote wrong path. I feel like we have given ourselves opportunities to awaken to life in the experiences we find ourselves in that are less than desirable so that we can absolutely know what joy feels like because we felt pain.
It's the reason for cliche but very true stories, for example, of why the butterfly has to struggle to get out of the cocoon so it builds the strength of its wings. We can't have joy without sadness. We can't have light without dark. All of those paradoxes that I don't know that our generation has yet to get that lesson, right? I feel a lot of times, especially with women and successful women, we get stuck in these traps of not only the success check the box trap, but also of martyrdom. You know, I'm the only one who can do all the things, right? And in all of that, we keep denying that voice, that inner voice, as you said, the soul's voice. And I believe that too, that our souls are here to do something and the human bodies are the vessel for that, right? Yes. So I'm curious, do you, looking back now, have you been able to identify times when that inner voice, that inner teacher, that soul voice in you was kind of tapping on your shoulder and giving you hints along the way?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. When I now, hindsight being 2020, when I reflect back, the first hint was in high school, we could take a class called dual enrollment where we could take a college course while in high school. And I selected psychology. Loved it. Now, I don't know why 16-year-old, 17-year-old Bridgette chose that. But now I know. But I loved it. Like, that was, to me, my first hint because it lit me up. I soaked it up. I thrived. I enjoyed it. If I was paying attention, aware, knowing, I would have continued to pull that thread. But I didn't. Went to school, following my dad's dream for me. So that, I feel like, was my first little tap on the shoulder. Then college, the cut was my second. But I also feel like it was like this, like, path corrector. Oh, not quite there. There. Okay, you can settle in there for a bit. Okay, now there. So that was my second one. Then graduating and feeling the discomfort of, so this is it, while working in my corporate gig was my other one. Then getting laid off was my next one. Because if I continued to get paid well, I don't think we'd be talking. Getting paid well and being able to live the life I was loving living is enough for a lot of people to just suck it up. And then that becomes a belief that we adopt, which is, this is just life. You're not supposed to like what you do. So that was my next nudge, was getting laid off. Then to just make sure I didn't continue in corporate and start climbing the ladder again, I had the boss from hell that was just rocking my world and making me cry every day with the performance improvement plans that were unmerited and unfounded and all those things. And then that's the place I started along the path of figuring out what was there for me. But even that, it's not like I'm now swimming in this land of on a mountaintop that I've arrived. That never happens. So even in that space, I started working as a coach and working at the school that we got certified in, which was such a dream and a beautiful place to be, where I now became the teacher that little Bridgette wanted to be. But that also wasn't where I needed to stay. So then that became utterly uncomfortable. There were some disagreements and things that happened within that realm. That was the next tap that was like, okay, girl, time to move on. And then the last couple of years, even more taps. And taps, I say, usually show up as some form of discomfort and angst and frustration, confusion, lack of clarity, knowing I don't want to be here, but I don't know yet where. That's where typically hiring a coach and conversations with a coach and or getting a community to get clarity in that space of not knowing what, but knowing this ain't it was very helpful, and it sped up time and sped up my ability to keep it moving. But yeah, those are the taps. If I now look back, those are the taps and the seeds and what I call little nudges of there, and also really learning what lit me up versus what didn't.
Yeah. I think Oprah calls them whispers too.
Yeah.
Like the little whispers, the taps that eventually come slap you up alongside the head or yell in your face if you're not listening. And I think that's the harder piece is a lot of us may recognize or see or feel those taps or hear those whispers or nudges or whatever, but then we don't act on them. We don't give them credence. And you said something key there, which is about beliefs. And so this kind of segues into the work that you're doing now and moving into is around belief shifting. So what would you say to somebody, especially of our generation, who's on that path of, I got to check the boxes. I got to now especially like save for retirement, get the kids through college, all the things. Maybe they're getting these taps, these whispers, but they're not doing anything about them. What would you tell to somebody to give them a first step so they can start giving credence to those nudges and whispers?
Yes, I would say first, stop everything, even if it's for a few minutes at minimum, and at maximum, steal away, get yourself away, and not necessarily on just a vacation that presses pause on things where you come back and then restart the madness again. But what you're in is a pattern, a very rhythmic pattern that is on repeat based on a certain belief that you have, that you've held true. And a belief is just a thought that we keep thinking over and over again that begins to be a true and lived rule and experience, that until we pause for a moment to even reflect and understand what the rule is, how true it is, how it's serving me, how maybe it once served me and maybe it doesn't any longer, but I've never really stopped to examine it, is just really interrupting your pattern for just a moment, again, at minimum, to really tap into, because all of us have a very still and quiet voice. It's not loud. Usually fear is very loud, and warnings of you better do this or else are very pervasive. The most wisdom that has the most life-giving energy to it is actually very quiet and calm. And when we're living in overworking and overthinking and stress and the noise of social media, we don't even know that voice exists. And so my favorite thing to offer people is just a moment of breathing, of exploring, going outside into nature, and really just allowing your nervous system to calm enough to hear what is trying to be said to you. So my favorite thing is to go away on a retreat. Just giving what it essentially is, whether it's a retreat or not, it's retreating, it's taking space, it's taking a beat. Another thing is to really ask yourself questions or put yourself in a position to be asked questions. Like that's what coaching essentially is questions asked that unlock answers to questions that you may be having swirling in your mind. But I'd say in short form, to answer your question, is to just take a break, take a pause, take a moment for yourself. Take some deep breaths and just be still. I guarantee you something will bubble up. It might be tears. It might be nothing. It might be what you think is nothing. It might feel uncomfortable as well because it's something that you're not accustomed to doing, especially if you're in that rhythm and in that and constantly going. But that space of space, that taking of space is going to allow something to be deposited into that space that you need to hear or know or feel.
And it doesn't have to be, as you said, a week-long or weekend-long retreat. It can be 5 minutes going outside and just staring at the sky or staring at some birds, staring at your dog for 5 minutes to learn. It doesn't, I think we have to get over the notion that a 2-week vacation is going to fix everything or that we have to block off some massive amount of time. It can be something really small.
Something small and doesn't have to cost any money. Because I guarantee you haven't been outside intentionally except to walk from where you need to be to where you need to go. And that in and of itself, I mean, think about too, our generation is a generation that played outside for hours. Returning to that for just 5 minutes. In fact, to leave your phone in the car and go sit under a tree, and it'll shift everything for you.
Are there some other childhood lessons that you're looking back on now, or that you're kind of trying to retrieve as you reconnect with your teacher and you learn how to play more?
Yeah, I was just going to say playing, just playing and being playful. I found myself as an adult, and many of us do this, we just take things way too seriously and haven't just been frivolous and played, like just goofy playing for no reason, or making up stories and daydreaming. Even what I did was so healing during the pandemic when the world shut down. I had already a bike, and I told one of my good girlfriends here in Tampa, I said, go get a bike. And thankfully she did before the rush of other people got hip to the fact that they needed to get a bike, because bikes started to become very popular. And we rode for hours. We keep talking about it too. Like, how do we ride bikes for hours every day, but we still gained weight? I was like, because we were also stress eating.
And the drinking and all the things. Yeah.
Oh, all the things. As we look back at our pictures, we were so puffy, but we were riding bikes every day. But yes, just being outside. Play is something I'm reintroducing to my clients, and it's something that I'm carrying forth in the space of just letting loose and playing. There's a heaviness that is set upon us with everything happening in the world, that through play and through a reconnection to ourselves and our bodies, the antidote to the stress and the anxiety is found. We have it within us, but it's not going to be found at the intellectual level, which we have overused and continue to overuse so much. So yeah, absolutely. The playing outside, the taking naps as well has been something that's been very restorative in a big, big way.
Something just clicked for me as I was listening to you, and sort of on this visual of a loop or a circle or something, is that when we're talking about listening to the whispers, to the nudges, to what we yearned for when we were children, we're talking about reconnecting. We're not talking about inventing something that wasn't ever there. We're talking about reconnecting. And so as I'm listening to you talk about a lot of the things that we Gen Xers did so well without even thinking of when we were kids, like playing, riding our bikes around, using our imagination, being creative, those are things that have just gotten covered up. They're still there. And coming back to something you said earlier, you had 3 R's. It was reinvention and recreation and something else. But we can tap back into all of those things, I think, is the message that I'm taking away from a lot of that. It's not that you don't have it. And I think a lot of Gen Xers believe that. I don't have it. I'm not playful. I'm not creative. Yeah. And that's just a limiting belief. It's bullshit.
It is bullshit, and that's my whole entire brand. Now it's BS. It's all BS. All of it is BS. All of it has been BS, and BS is both bullshit and belief systems. We were, as Gen Xers, we were programmed with a belief system that hard work is the way. And if we really think about it, we were coming off and born into a generation just past the Industrial Revolution. So it behooved all of those in power to indoctrinate society into believing that being a good employee, student, getting perfect attendance, being trained to disobey our bodily functions like peeing and pooping and needing a pass to go to the bathroom, because productivity is the highest form of being an adult and being successful. All of those things we were trained to do. We were literally being trained to be good employees all throughout our life. And so the abandonment of humanity and being human for the sake of productivity, I mean, like, that becomes like the thing to say. I had a productive day. What? What does that even mean? And why is a productive day considered a great day and a successful day? What if you had an absolutely fun day? That becomes seen as frivolous, because, again, to the powers that be that wanted to control the masses to keep creating success for them, was sit at the factory, for as long as you humanly can, and output, 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 all to the detriment of our humanity, of our souls, and our body, and to the disrespect of our bodies, because now we have dysregulated nervous systems, because when we disobey a natural uprising, like when I learned through a teacher of mine a couple years ago, when we have an urge to pee. Like our body is so beautifully, miraculously, and wonderfully made that it gives us a signal, I have to pee, I have to poop, I have to, whatever it is. And it needs to be obeyed in order to feel safe. Like she is in a very okay situation right now because I have given her the signal and she obeyed the signal. When we disobey, disregard, and dismiss the signal to pee, what the body thinks you are is being chased by a bear. It thinks you're in peril. It thinks you're in danger. And so all of the other things that are set to be in motion because of that disobeying of the signal to pee, as just one example, are now in effect, which means it's releasing certain hormones in the body, which continues to make us gain weight, can't lose it, because it thinks that I'm in a heightened state. So then all systems go for body respond to heightened state. Now extrapolate this out to disobeying natural emotional signals of, I don't like being treated like that. I don't like being here. Being here is unsafe. I am uncomfortable. Push down, push down, push down, push down. I gotta be here. Nope, it's not that bad. Those impulses that we were literally taught to ignore have become a way of living that many people are so unconscious to what it's doing and has done to our bodies that we think that the health deteriorations that are happening are a function of old age when they are not. I have a client, true story, client, and I guess this is part of my thing because you kind of blamed me for you now being in this entrepreneurial swimming pool. Her and I started working together a couple months ago. She was feeling all of the irritation and frustration with work, really wanted to lean into this space of her being a healer herself. Her last day was last Friday. I spoke to her. No, today's okay. Anyway, I'm just going to give the days of the week. Her last day was a Friday. We had our session on Tuesday. When I spoke to her, she shared with me, she has this thing that's called the Aura Ring, which takes into account your bodily biometrics to let you know whether you're getting enough sleep and rest and how your body is functioning and all that stuff. Her Aura Ring, her typical sleep while she was working in this very toxic cultural environment of her 9 to 5. Sleep scores were usually 40 to 50 out of 100. Her last day of working, she finally kicked it to the curb, was Friday. Her and I spoke that next Tuesday. Not even a full week, her sleep score was now 85. That in and of itself lets you know that indoctrination of work in order to be something and be somebody and to render yourself as a worthy human was implanted, was programmed on purpose. And now we're in a space where we're being invited to wake up to the truth of it and to return to a space of our trueness, to shift our BS, our belief systems, to be in tune with what do I want to believe to be true. And it's not that everybody needs or wants to be an entrepreneur. That's not what I'm saying. It's to be so in tune with what I believe to be true about life that I start to make very intentional decisions about my life and my life force and where I place myself and where I continue to place myself that actually feed me and not deplete me. That's our birthright. That's the invitation. And the fact that we're living in the time and space reality that we're living in, where we can literally be, do, have, involve ourselves, make money doing so many different things, means we have so much choice in the matter. And when we remember the fact that we are at choice and that we always have a choice, we can absolutely experience freedom in our lifetime. The way that we did when we were frolicking and playing on our bikes for hours, going miles and miles away from our home and having the time of our lives.
So I'm going to put on my former lawyer, sarcastic, skeptical, cynical hat.
Yes.
Of a true Gen Xer and say, that's a nice little vision, Bridgette, but I got a family. I got 2 kids. One I'm trying to get out of school. One I'm trying to get through college. I have parents who are aging. I'm overweight. I'm tired. We're in debt. We got to pay off the house. My husband and I don't have sex anymore. My partner, whoever it is, we don't have a relationship. Like, I am just trying to survive every day. So what do you say to people like that who are in it, in the midst of just up against the wall? How do you get them to start to shift those BS belief systems?
Yeah, at first I want to say for anyone that's feeling and experiencing that as their reality, that you have every right to question what I just said and to feel that it's so utterly far away from any reality you can ever experience, because you are handling quite a lot. You are holding a lot. And I honor you for holding a lot between aging parents and children through school and debt and your body. Your body having and holding weight is actually a symptom of you not taking care of yourself. And so my first question to you would be, do you want to do something about it? Because you have choice in that first step. Because some of you don't want to do shit about it. You don't. Own that. Own the fact that you love complaining about it, that you're comfortable complaining about it, that there's some level of comfort in all of the surviving that you're having to do, and that actually it has become a badge of honor and quite your identity, that you don't know who you would be in a space of peace. You don't know who you would be happy. So if that is you and you feel like it's too hard to change and to shift and that you actually don't want to, don't. And I'm not talking to you.
I know. Can I pause on that for just a second on the comfort piece of it? Because I really want people to understand and hear this. Comfort does not mean pleasure. It does, or happiness necessarily. Comfort just means it's what you're used to. And what you're used to is better than what you're not used to. Comfort is better than the fear of the discomfort, the unknown. So that when you're saying comfort, that's how I interpret that. And I think
that is one form of comfort. And I will also add that there is pleasure in comfort that's uncomfortable. Have you ever read the book Existential Kink?
I knew exactly that's what you were going to say. That did we talk about this? I haven't read that book, but I do a lot of shadow work. I've read other books around shadows, and I think those books and Existential Kink, the big point of it is we get something out of that, and that's a hard pill for people to swallow. You get something out of wanting to stay where you are, from the comfort, from the discomfort, whatever it is. So tell me.
I just want to mention the author. Oh gosh, I don't have my glasses. This is another GenX thing. Carolyn Elliott.
Yes.
Carolyn Elliott wrote the book Existential Kink, and the premise of that book is that we engage in emotional loops and repetitive behaviors and stories and feelings because we get off on feeling that way. And we do. There is nothing any human does, nothing that there is not a reward for, because we are psychologically programmed to run towards pleasure and away from pain. So there is absolutely, if I am one person that's always like, oh my God, I have so many people that need me, then what happens is, if you do have an audience of people listening to you, you're going to have an empathetic person that's like, oh my gosh, or someone that takes care of you because of that. That's a reward. And if you suddenly had nothing to complain about, or you actually received help and support or asked for it, God forbid, then who would you be without that? You think what that type of person thinks is that no one's going to care for me if I don't have something that I'm in need of care for, which comes back to a space of worthiness and understanding of your worthiness. So to answer your lawyer cynical question, I love that question, because you're exactly right. There are some people that are listening that to me that really feel like I am expressing a very Pollyanna sort of world. And to a person that's existing in survival, absolutely that's going to feel and seem like that, which is why my recommended first step is to just take a beat, go outside 5 minutes, and that's a place to begin. So for that person that doesn't want to, when I ask you the question, okay, I hear you, you're surviving, are you interested? Well, first I got 4 questions to ask you. One is, okay, how well is what you're doing working for you? Okay, what's it costing you? And if there was another way of doing life, would you be interested in it? That's 3 questions, not 4. So if you understand what it's costing you, if it's costing you your health, your happiness, your overall sense of just enjoyment of life, and that cost is too much for you, and you're interested in exploring another way of doing it, then let's talk to that person. That person that is surviving, that has the parents that are aging, the children through school, that everything seems heavy and a sludge, but you are like, please, I'd be happy to hear of another way of doing it. Then I'm talking to you. And the first step I would say is congratulations, you've already taken it, which is desiring something different. And then beyond that, what I would invite you to do is to put pen to paper or grab a trusted friend, confidant, coach, your partner maybe, who can really listen to you without needing to try to fix you or solve any problem, but just hear you. And go back to the space of our childhood and daydream. Really daydream about what I wish life could be. That's it. Write it down. What do you wish if you could wave a magic wand and get and experience what you want, even if it feels far-fetched? What would you love to have happen? Or even if you hit the lottery and got $50 million deposited in your bank tomorrow, what would you do? Entering a space of your imagination would be the next step, I would say, is just imagine what life could be. And then beyond that, I would say take even a break or a day or two between writing that down or expressing that to a confidant or someone that you trust. Take a couple days and just go about your life. And then the next step is take that piece of paper back out or revisit that conversation and draw a line down the center of a piece of paper and write down on one side of the paper what you believe, in thinking about what it is you would love to live and what you would love life to look like, or what you would love to do if you had $50 million deposited in your bank tomorrow. Write down what those things are, and then write down what you would need to believe to be true about life in order for it to be true. So here's an example. If I had $50 million deposited tomorrow, what I would do is take the next 3 months off of work. And I would take a trip, or I would do whatever I wanted to do. I would just detach myself from any responsibilities. I'd make sure that whoever I am responsible for is taken care of, because I'd have all the money to do so. And I would just go to the spa. I would take care of myself. I would just indulge. What would I need to believe to be true in order to live like that? Well, I would need to believe that I can. I would need to believe that I can do whatever I want. So it's an exercise in really stretching and challenging your brain and what you see, because the brain is wired to just compare what it already knows. And so that's how we get stuck in repetitive cycles of the same thing, because it doesn't introduce itself, your brain, without questions and without conversations like this. We don't introduce the brain, with new and fresh and expanded ideas that challenge what we think we already know to be true about life. So that would be what I would recommend for those of you who are like, yes, I'm absolutely interested in something else, is take a break, go outside. Step 2, write down or talk with a friend about dreaming of, oh my God, if I had $50 million, I would do this, I would be this, I would experience this. And then 3, jot down what you would need to believe to be true about life, about yourself, in order to exist in that dream state that you just dreamt about. That would be like the very most simplest exercise you could do on your own. Of course, my recommendation to really expand that and to see to it that you do it and actually start to begin to shift your life experience and move from survival to actually enjoying life, to thriving in life, is to absolutely recruit, invest in some form of external support, be it a community that is on that same page of there's got to be more to life than this. Because if you believe that to be true, that there's got to be more to life than this, then you can start exploring that with the support of either a community that's on that same page or a coach if you want more one-on-one focus on really seeing what more is there for you.
Don't DIY it, good old GenX style, by yourself.
You could. It'll just take you long, and you're more likely to revert back to your old patterns.
What do you say to somebody who, again, being skeptical and cynical, is like, that's great, and what I would really need to believe if I had $50 million in my account is that my financial needs are taken care of, and right now they're not. So how do we sort of bridge the gap, if there's a gap, between the belief and the facts of our circumstances.
Yeah, there's a couple of things at play in that space. One is, what is it that needs to be taken care of financially? Let's drill down on what it actually means to be taken care of financially, and what that question or that statement really suggests to me after the healing work I've specifically done around money is truly understanding, like we were talking about earlier, the generational patterns and energies we carry that we don't even know we're carrying. A lot of times we carry that same thing around money, the topic of money as well, which I recognize that I was carrying this level of stress around money that until I woke up to this through getting hypnotherapy and therapy and working with my money mentor, Kate Northrup, I was behaving like I was my mom who had 3 kids, a husband, and I don't have that. I only have my dog Ginger. But I was behaving around the topic of money with that same exact pattern of stress, weirdly. So it's a matter of getting the facts over the feelings, because a lot of times our feelings and our emotions about things can take us for a ride that actually aren't true. So let's drill down to what needs need to be met. What are my spending habits? Am I really in a space of what my coach calls financially sober? Meaning, am I real about my money usage? Oftentimes when I hear, yeah, but I don't got it, that's usually an automatic response, and you do, because if I were to really get into your business and look at your bank statement, you probably have been spending money on items and things that are band-aids to assuage your emotions of lack and fear and of frustration and all the things.
Just like alcohol.
Yes, we will find money for the things that we think we need and want. It's miraculously available to us. So
just like an addict will find alcohol or drugs however, whenever they can. I mean, it is all, as you said, kind of coming back to the addiction, it's all to satisfy what we want in the moment. I love that, financially sober. Sorry, I had to seize on that. That was such a great
term. Yes. Mm-hmm. So first, I would invite you to get financially sober. I'll still back up because I want to be very clear with, and I know you're playing the cynical role, but I also understand there's a lot of people that have that thought process, which that in and of itself is BS, and it's a belief system. And I want to draw a very clear line of the sarcasm of the individual listening who has that same question. That's like, yeah, I'm so glad Michele asked that. There's those of you who are going to continue to fight for your limitations. I'm not talking to you. Because a lot of people love to live in a land of sarcasm and doubt and disbelief and skepticism because that's all they know themselves to be. And also, again, because they get off on being the victim and of being a martyr. So I'd be remiss if I continue to respond as if everyone is skeptical and desires to ease that for a moment for the sake of their own evolution. There are those that are skeptical because they want to continue to fight for their limitations. And I want you to own that if that's you.
Yep. My whole body just lit up when you said that, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know that part of me that likes to fight for my limitations.
Yeah. And I am not interested in going toe to toe with you because you want to be who you want to be. And if I am being me and living according to my rules about life, I let people be who they are and I leave them where they're at. My journey, and I skip along and want to play with, because I'm also skeptical. I'm a skeptic. I told you before.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
For goodness sake. I doubt everything on sight. You mean like what? No. And there's a space of malleability and neuroplasticity that you want to be able to engage in if you choose to relax your shoulders, be easy, and experience a life and a version of life you've never had before. So yes, meet me with skepticism for shizzle. And if you're also amenable to exploring beyond that skepticism, if you're willing to be questioned while you're questioning, then let's have a conversation. So if you are feeling like your reality doesn't necessarily reflect the ability to journey into a path of possibilities and a belief that lets you experience freedom, then what part of you can at least be open to the possibility that your life can look and feel different? If it's 2%, yes, great. If it's 5%, amazing. That is where I would start with you who is saying, but Bridgette, the facts are the facts and I can't. Are you willing to believe that you can? And if your answer is yes, you are willing to believe that you can thrive and that your life can look different, then let's start with that.
It's like taking the inherent strength in skepticism, the lighter side of skepticism, and shifting it into curiosity. Are you willing to shift into curiosity? Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about belief systems and the BS around the BS. And that's, I know you're shifting your work into focusing more on people's belief systems. So tell me a little bit what shift looks like for you and what you're doing with that work now around shifting belief systems.
Yeah, I'm super excited about entering this space. And it's interesting. I'm decluttering my home as I'm an aspiring minimalist.
Yes.
So I was looking at one of my journals from 10 years ago when I was first entering this space of coaching, and I was still straddling working full time and starting this coaching business on the side. And I was like, man, she really knew what she wanted to do, because I'm now returning to this space yet again, almost like the teacher in me returned to the teacher. And I was journaling at that time, this exact space, because I found myself caught up in belief systems that were causing me to live in a life that was not mine, and live in a life that wasn't making me happy and wasn't making me feel fulfilled and wasn't making me feel like I was living this very short gift of a life to its fullest. And the work that I'm doing with my movement essentially is it's called It's All BS. And I'm tapping into that ambitious woman who really loves to achieve and loves to experience the thrill of achievement, and loves to learn and explore and loves to live a good, amazing, juicy life of exploration. But yet she's in a space where she feels this emptiness inside, that externally she's the picture of success. She's the picture of everything. And she's usually the person for everybody. She's the wise one, the one that people call to solve the problems and sift through the things. But inside, if she were to be really real with herself, there's a space of dissatisfaction and unhappiness that she oftentimes fills with a vacation that's fancy, or a fancy handbag, or buying certain things that she's just things that for a moment it's like, ooh, I feel good about myself. And I am on a mission to reconnect that woman, that ambitious high achiever, to herself and to her wellness. And what I mean by wellness is that right feeling of groundedness and mentally healthiness, that level of feeling and understanding her inherent worth on this planet is not tied to her tasks that she does for people or her achievement. Because what I believe to be true is that wellness is the pathway to the most authentic version of success that we're missing when we're just climbing a ladder and checking boxes. I cannot tell you how many attorneys that I meet, medical professionals I meet, corporate badasses that I meet, that when I really talk to them, they want to flip tables. That outside they can look absolutely incredible. They can walk the talk, but internally there's a disconnection from themselves. And then what they end up doing in the absence of knowing that what's calling to them is a reconnection to themselves and to their wellness is they end up working even harder. They double down on the work and they become workaholics, and then they end up living incongruent to what they say they prioritize, which is their family, which is they're at dinner with their family, but they're checking their emails. They're on vacation, but they're tapped into their emails. So it's like, are you really, is family the real reason why you work? Because you're with them right now on vacation. And what I recognize is that that's a function of identity. And when our identity is tied to a space of work, 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 achieve, 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 it leaves us with this sense of just emptiness, that I've achieved the pinnacle. I've got the corner office. I got partner, but it didn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel. That's because, my dear, your belief systems are BS. You believed that you needed to climb, achieve, to please everyone except yourself. And so what I'm creating is this community and this space to be able to remind these women that you get to question the BS. Question your belief system, question the bullshit that we've been given. And when you start to question it, you create this space where you then get to create your own BS, your own belief systems to be true about life. That even if you stay in that job because it's what you need to do for this season of your life, you still are able to have a level of wholeness within yourself that allows you to show up and see the gift in the job that once used to kill you.
I know a few women like that, for sure.
Yeah.
And it kind of came back full circle for me when you were talking about even if you need to stay in the job, seeing the gift of that. It goes back to how you coached me through on that very first session in our training, is to stop looking at my life and my circumstance as if I was being held hostage. That I did have, as you said early on in the conversation, more conscious choice. And I could make that situation be what I want it to be. May not have been what I ultimately want to be, didn't mean I was going to stay there forever, but I could see the gift in it and use it in a more conscious way. And
Absolutely.
so a new belief system around that.
Absolutely. And it's like brushing our teeth. Belief systems are to be refreshed and reviewed and questioned. And a lot of times we were told not to question things, or we just accept. Like, it's like we were born and we had our hands out. We're like, okay, what's life like? What's society like? Okay, got it. That's what I'm supposed to believe. I'm on it. And we dutifully just journeyed into this space, and we did it because we are achievers. We love the thrill. I love to achieve things. It's so much fun. What I've now begun to do, and what I help my clients to do in my community, is to not achieve to the detriment of their souls and to their heart. To actually do so with your heart and your soul in alignment, because that level of achievement, there are no words to that. And what's amazing is that even if during our work you gotta just stick with the job that you're at, but you've carved out this space in your off time to tap into the truth of yourself, you won't be there for long. But you'll be able to make the move in such a conscious, grounded, beautiful way. And while you're there, you're able to endure it with a level that's more nourishing than you are when you're hating it and despising it and resentful of it. And you're carrying that, but you're putting on the face that you're professional.
What do you think is the most uncomfortable belief that especially Gen Xers need to hear right now in order for them to shift their belief systems?
You don't need to be productive to be worthy. You don't need to be productive to be worthy. The new belief is, I am worthy because I am. I am worthy because I exist. Not only that, but my desires are important to me. That I can prioritize myself. And that from that, the things that I'm efforting to make happen are done so more beautifully. But I would say the first thing that came to me when you asked me that question is to dismantle this belief that my productivity creates my worthiness. Because that is such an underlying false belief system that is running people ragged and creating dis-ease and illnesses and autoimmune diseases and certain things that we chalk up to life and living and aging and all of these things. But your inherent worthiness is because you're here, not because of what you do.
And I agree with you 100%. I think that is so uncomfortable for people, especially of our generation, to want to believe. Wait, you mean I don't have to do anything to prove my worth? That's very discombobulating.
It is. It absolutely is, even to the point where people won't rest or sleep, and not getting enough rest and sleep, and it's killing us.
Yeah, killing us and sucking the joy out of life. And coming back to one of the main themes of this conversation, dismissing and disconnecting from that soul voice, that true soul purpose that we have. Yeah.
It's our absolute birthright. And we have the ability, when we remind ourselves, to actually enjoy life. And it's not, life enjoyment is not to be relegated to a couple PTOs a few times a day, or to short weekend days. There is enjoyment available to you in every waking breath you breathe if you seek for it. But we can't seek for it when we're first trying to establish a level of worthiness through action.
I think that's and I'm again generalizing, I think that's a message that younger generations, I don't know if they're getting it more quickly, and certainly they still have their own self-worth issues. I feel like the younger generations are getting that message clearer than our generation, and especially the generations before us. Gen Xers are 65 million strong of us. Think of the power if we could bridge that gap, if we could really convey that message for the older and the younger generations. If we could really start to believe that ourselves.
Yeah, it's powerful because I believe one of the many gifts we have to give our world as we exist as Gen Xers in this time is the fact that we have existed pre-technology as it is today. And within it, that the gift we can give to the younger generation is, hey, you can put the phone down and really soak up life and really connect to another human face to face. And you can not compare yourself to something that's curated and may or may not be true. Because I believe though we can get sucked into that as Gen Xers that are privy to technology, we also recognize as we age and as we can lean into our own confidence within ourselves that I don't need the internet to tell me what I need. And then to the generations that are more seasoned and older than us, we have the capacity to show them the invitation that the younger generation is showing us is boundaries. And I don't have to overwork myself to show my worthiness, that no, my day ends here, or that I don't need to go into an office or what have you, that we sit in this sandwich space of so much possibility if and when we're able to dismantle the beliefs that have held us captive to a space of overworking and productivity and a detachment from purpose, which the utter purpose of life, the only purpose in life is to experience it. And when we're disconnected from experiencing life, when we're just trudging our way through it or surviving life, we are not experiencing it. Experiencing it is being fully within this moment and taking in the fact that I'm having a beautiful conversation with my dear friend Michele, and it feels so good to be doing this, that the sun is shining and that I hear the fountain outside, and that is so soothing, that I feel so grateful to be alive right now, to have my fur baby living the best of her life next to me, and that I have so many possibilities that I get to lean into in my life. And even if there's some things in today that I have to do that I don't want to do, the fact that I am able to do it is an ability to enjoy this one beautiful, fast-moving life that comes with so much pain, that I get to reach for and seek and embrace pleasure whenever I can, because I know that I can, that I'm aware that I can. And to wake up to that fact is the ultimate gift that we can give ourselves as Gen Xers.
I'm just magic. It's just magic. That's the only way. That was like a sermon almost right there in a good way. That was beautiful. You mentioned that you are building community around the BS of the belief systems. So where's that stand, and how can people learn more about, become more part of that community if they want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So first move right now is to go to my website, Bridgette, Bridgette.co. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, sign up for my newsletter, because you will be the first to learn and find out when I am opening the doors to the BS Society, which is my premier group of these ambitious women I spoke about earlier who want a very safe space to explore their BS, their belief systems that are keeping them feeling disconnected from themselves, and to really reconnect with a sense of wellness. It's going to be it's a community that is unlike any other. It's not your typical boring, we meet on Zoom, you learn a couple lessons. Each month we're having themes and challenges that will help you to lean into your BS. Like one of the challenges, I'll give you a little sneak peek here, is the BS of repetition. And so for the whole month, there will be challenges where I'm challenging my ambitious women to interrupt their patterns and do different things, as simple as going a different route to work or to pick up their kids for that day. It's a game changer. It just does something to us. And so that's a little minimal description of it, but we'll also have in-person immersive experiences. We'll do one of my favorite modalities for being able to disconnect from our head to our body, which is breath work. I'm a certified breath work facilitator. So we'll be doing breath work, journaling exercises to do those questions that I talked about that really tap into our psyche, that allow us the ability to stretch what we believe to be true. So it's a really beautiful space for us professional, ambitious women to gather, called the BS Society. So I'm launching that. I'm also launching BS Live, which are live one-day experiences where you tear away from your everyday to be able to be coached live, to experience breathwork live, to experience community of like-minded women who are able to just celebrate each other, to play together, and to experience exactly what I'm talking about, to create those micro shifts that add up over time, to creating a belief system that believes I can live my life fully, and I'm absolutely doing it on my terms. And so that's what I'm creating, and I'm so excited about all of it. So not only with the one-day experiences, I'll continue to have my luxury retreats, like the Serenity Retreat, which I have once a year in Mexico, where for 5 days, 4 nights, we go away to a luxurious all-inclusive resort on the water, which is just amazing, and explore rest and play and each other and ourselves. So much going on in the land of BS that I'm so thrilled to be offering to the world.
The land of BS.
Yes.
How do you define, or who do you consider to be ambitious women? Because I could see some women out there thinking, well, I'm not super ambitious, but my life still sucks. Like, what's your definition of ambitious?
My definition of ambitious is that high achiever. So you are my type of woman if you love to achieve and you have achieved, meaning you love a checklist, a challenge, you love a goal to aspire to, and you've probably in this point in your life been and are aspiring to achieve a level of success in your life that you really enjoy being a leader, that you're typically considered a leader. People look at you as a leader. Maybe you're leading a group of people in your vocation or not. And people that are women that are very outspoken, or even if you're a quiet introverted type, but you just have this sense of the world about you, that you're the best fit. So ambitious is those high achieving, success oriented, driven type of women that are usually working all the time, connected all the time, dialed in all the time, who are also people pleasers. People come to you quite a bit for answers to questions, solutions to problems. You're on speed dial. You probably don't think you can do what I do, which is put your phone on do not disturb at night. Because I read the other day, what did it say? If you're dead while I'm sleeping, you're still going to be dead when I wake up. It's so awful, but you're not going to disturb my sleep. I'm sorry. I'm only asleep for 7-8 hours. I'll get to you in the morning. So usually you're that person. Yeah.
I'm going to put that message on, I think, the automatic reply for when I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. If you're dead, you'll still be dead when I come back online.
Yeah, I'll get to you in the morning.
That's awesome. So tell me, you are also going to be launching a podcast.
Yes, I am finally. It has been in the works. That along with my book, it's in the works. So it's all BS is what it's all about. Again, this is the land of BS. So I am hosting a podcast, starting it very soon, where I will be not only speaking, but also interviewing and speaking with women that have been following that well-worn path of success and are interested and open in shifting their belief system around driving themselves and running themselves ragged in this space of success, to reinvite them to a space of wellness as a pathway to more authentic success and experiencing it. So it's conversations, it's belief shifting, it's live coaching, and just overall very fun and intriguing and belief shifting conversations that you're going to want to listen to really tap into that ability to shift your own beliefs in order to invite yourself to live a more purposeful life.
Well, I know that won't be out by the time this airs, but I'll keep the show notes updated. So I'll make sure to put the link for the podcast and your book and the community. When everything goes live, I'll make sure to update all the show notes so that's in there. This is going to be a big year for you.
Yes, it's a huge year. This is a movement that has been brewing within my heart and in my soul for a long time. And admittedly, I was a bit scared to step into this space. I feared that people wouldn't necessarily understand, although I don't know why, because I lived it. It's a lived experience for a lot of professionals, and actually not even just women. Men experience it. All types of people experience the disconnect between what they thought they would feel when they reached the pinnacle of success and what they were efforting towards and what they're actually feeling. And I desire to be the bridge, haha, no pun intended, that I want to bridge that gap of, yes, you get to be successful, and the part that you feel is missing from what you thought you'd be feeling is that alignment with your truest self and your truest beliefs and desires. And so I'm excited. I'm thrilled for this It's All BS to become a way and a pathway for anyone who experiences it and me to be able to just question what you believe to be true. Just question it. Be open to questioning everything you thought and everything you were handed to be true.
So before the community even launches, though, people can go to your website if they're interested in working with you one-on-one or finding out about other offerings you have. And
I would say the best way to stay connected to me, to really be privy to everything, is either Instagram, Bridgette Simmonds, and that's Simmonds with a D, BridgetteSimmonds. Follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn, and also go to my website, bridgette.co, and sign up for my newsletter.
Okay, good. I was going to ask where else people can find you. And you also have a free offer for our listeners, which is Breathe and Believe 3-minute reset. So tell us what they can expect from that freebie.
Yes, that is such a powerful, quick, because I know y'all are busy, 3 minutes to just tap into a quick breathing exercise guided by me. It's 3 minutes long for you to just sit in your car before a meeting, after a long day, before a long day, whenever you want to really tap into yourself and your body and to just create a sense of ease. And that spaciousness I talked about that interrupts the pattern of go, 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 busy, 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 serve, 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 in order to just open yourself up to what's next for you, whether it's a next thought, a next belief, or really just to calm yourself down. We live in a space where our nervous systems are under attack and overstimulated. So that's a really great gift for you to keep on your favorites, to be able to tap into the breath, which I mentioned the breath and the fact that I'm a breathwork facilitator. And I'll share a little bit about, if I can, why I am. So we tend to live in a state of stress quite a bit, especially Gen Xers, because we're so productivity focused. And in stress, what we do is we breathe in the top part of our lungs without even realizing it. And even breathing in just that top part of our lungs is the same way as I shared earlier when you're holding your pee. Your body, when you're breathing shallowly, thinks that you're in distress. You're being chased by a bear. And so every other faculty in your body is like, stress, she's stressed, alert. And when we remember to breathe a little deeper into the whole of our lungs, what our body is able to receive the signal of is safety. And in a space of your body being signaled that you're safe, what you're able to do in that space is create a new plan, come up with a new idea. You're able to feel rested, and so many other things. Because a lot of us don't know our physiology. Our lungs, if these were our lungs have lobes on them, and one lung has less lobes than the other lung because our heart sits just right here in our lung. So when we're breathing shallowly, it's not able to let our heart know I'm safe. So when we take a deep breath, the lung literally hugs the heart and is like, oh, we're good right now. And we don't breathe like that. We don't. And so our physiology literally needs a moment to know when, because we can literally be sitting at our desk chilling, looking like the pinnacle of peace, breathing up here. And every day throughout the day, I just stop sometimes and And even when you make a sound with it, in fact, if you make the ha sound, that vibration actually enhances the peace and calm you're giving your heart in that moment. So that is what the gift I'm giving your listeners is the gift of breath and calm. And it only takes 3 minutes.
And that'll be through a link that I
Yes.
can share with folks, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's such a great explanation and such an important point to remember when we are in that kind of low grade fever of survival mode all day. And you mentioned creativity and problem solving. It's because literally our physiology is then programming our brains to shut down our executive functioning a little bit so that the amygdala, the kind of fear response connection, is online because it's trying to help us survive. And so if you're thinking, I'm not performing well at work, I'm not tapped into my creativity, I can't figure out this problem, tap into your breath and start to open up that channel a little bit more. That's a great reminder.
That's it. Yeah.
So anything, before we move into a lightning round, anything that I didn't ask you or that you didn't get to talk about that you want to share?
Thank you for asking. I am hosting every other month free belief shifting sessions. So you get a chance to experience exactly what this work is all about, especially for my skeptics out there, but only the skeptics that are open to possibilities. You'll be able to experience breath work and the ability to experience my coaching and what this work entails and what it looks and feels like, because it can absolutely feel a little far-fetched to us as a society who's used to working and going. So I love to offer these free BS moments to be able to introduce you to the world of wellness and success as a wellness as a pathway to success. So feel free to join those, and you'll be able to get to those by signing up for my newsletter, and I'll be announcing those there as well as social media.
Okay. And I hope people take you up on that invitation, because I was going to say, when you were talking about the 3-minute reset, just to listen to your voice is a gift. We didn't talk about this, but you've done some voiceover work. And so periodically I will hear a commercial. There was a car commercial or something recently that I texted you. I'm like, did I just hear you on a car commercial? Because your voice is just heaven, silky smooth. It just calms my whole system. So listen to the 3-minute reset, if for nothing else than to just get to bathe in your voice.
That was so funny. I was like, yes, that was a commercial. I did do a commercial for the Colorado area and forgot. So yes.
I'm like, I know that voice.
Oh, it's so funny. It's bizarro. When I was a kid, I used to hate my voice. And here we are again, what I believe to be true. What we have and how we are naturally has something for somebody. And now that I love and embrace who I am in my voice and hear that constantly, that it's created to soothe, and then the work that I do, it would make perfect sense that I'd be created this way along with my voice that I used to think was too deep and I sounded like a man and all that. Yeah. And now I get paid for it.
That's what I'm like, I call like a duh. Like, duh, your voice is supposed to be like soothing and out there for people. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's do a quick lightning round before we wrap it up. What is your fondest GenX childhood memory?
Oh my gosh. I have so many. I loved my childhood. My favorite fondest childhood memory. There's so many. So I'm going to give you 2 that just popped into my literal brain. I saw the image of them. One is riding my bike. And now that I see the distance I went, I'm like, dang, girl, we rode for miles. Little do I know, my parents even knew we were in another city away. But it was so one of my biggest values is freedom. And I suppose it was cemented then because I felt free, and playing hide and go seek in the neighborhood and hiding in trees and climbing in trees. My second fondest memory, besides being outside, is coming home from school. I was a latchkey kid. I had the key around my neck, under my shirt. Walking home from school, and I'd open up the door, and I couldn't wait to come home because I had this ritual every single day on TBS at 4:35. And I never knew why their times for their shows were at the 4:35, whatever. But I used to break out in the cabinet my Nutty Bar, and I would crack open that plastic wrap of that Nutty Bar. I'd tune into TBS, and I'd watch my favorite show at the time, which was The Brady Bunch. And as I watched that episode, I would peel apart my Nutty Bar bit by bit. I'd just take it apart, each row by row, and eat the peanut buttery chocolate goodness and savor it. And to this day, I keep a box of Nutty Bars in my pantry. I have one
just
right
gonna
now.
ask.
Yep, I can pull it out right now and show you. And I can't eat them as frequently as I did when I was a kid because the metabolism is different. But that was the sweetest joy, was watching the Brady Bunch and eating my Nutty Buddy right on the floor of my living room of my house at 608 Forest Drive in Castleberry, Florida.
I love that image. And what a great reminder, by the way, of, maybe we just need to break out the Nutty Bar and sit and watch some Brady Bunch once in a while.
And I
Reconnect
would
to that.
say that. When I was working with my hypnotherapist and she was doing that hypnotherapy shadow work while I was tapping into my childhood, after our session, she would tell me, do things that you would do as a kid. And it was so healing to do that work and then also tap into what I did as a kid, like eating a Nutty Buddy, a Nutty Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My snack of choice I have no idea why, for some weird reason when I came home from school, is I would make on Wonder Bread mayonnaise, cheese, and sweet relish. That's it.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know why.
Oh, that's a very interesting combo. But
I have no idea.
We loved it.
It was Nebraska. It was maybe, I don't know what.
Somebody put you onto it and it became your thing. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your biggest piece of advice for other Gen Xers to start to shift their beliefs?
My biggest piece of advice is to, as much as possible, carve out a piece of your budget to invest in some type of personal development community or coach that's worthy, because there's a lot of people out there that are calling themselves coaches that are doing damage. So I want to really give that disclaimer, to do your research, to hit up Michele, even me, if you're wanting to choose that. But place yourself into a community and or a space where you can begin to start to question your beliefs, question what you know, and question who you are with safety. Because it's in question asking. The brain responds to questions. And without intentionally and consciously asking it questions that are directive in a positive way, we tend to default into negative questions like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get this right? So that's what my biggest piece of advice is, to carve out and invest in communities or a coach to allow yourself to question your beliefs and reintroduce new beliefs. And if you don't have the budget for it, YouTube, this podcast is an incredible resource. Michele, you do such an incredible job of serving our generation in a way that is timely for our age and stage and what we've experienced and what we still have yet to experience. So tap into free places and spaces like podcasts, books. Gather up and put yourself in spaces that are different from your normal, typical rhythm and pattern, and people and places that do and say the same things. That would be my biggest piece of advice, is to find yourself in new spaces that are healthy and whole and having conversations like this one.
Yeah, I resonate with that completely. What's your favorite Gen X era word or phrase?
Oh my gosh. My favorite, it's so, if you could see inside my brain what the flash that's happening. Did you know in Tampa we have this place called GenX Tavern here?
What?
And it's a place called GenX Tavern, and it is a bar and restaurant. And there's a living room-esque type place that has all the games. There's the Nintendo there. Everything is there from Gen X. It's so cool.
We need them. We gotta get them to sponsor the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. I hope they're still open. I last went there
for
Halloween a couple years ago. I'm gonna see if they're still open, because they should. But they're right downtown Tampa, called GenX Tavern.
Which is I would come to Tampa just to see you.
Yeah,
but oh my God, now I have to come. I have to figure out.
Absolutely do. So like here they have video games.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
is that on Instagram?
It's your type of place. This is on Yelp, but I'm sure they have an Instagram page. It's called GenX Tavern. I can't believe I never told you this.
No.
So GenX Tavern.
Oh my
come
God,
to Tampa,
look at that.
Come visit Ginger.
We need to do and I need to reach out to them.
Live broadcast.
I was going to say we need to do a
Look
podcast
at all these
from there.
TVs.
Oh my, that just is giving me goosebumps. Like I want to hop in the car with Winnie and drive down there right now.
Yes, come on down.
Oh my God. That needs to be a chain.
Yeah, it should.
franchise.
It should. And I'm so glad that they're still open. They've been open for quite some time. So my favorite, gosh.
Wait, so how did we even, I asked about your word of
asked me
phrase,
what's
and
my
then you
favorite
talked about the flash through your head, and then we got on the
flash through my
GenX
head
Tavern.
was Dare. Okay,
Okay.
Dare to keep kids off drugs. That logo flashed through my mind. Then what flashed through my mind was one day, I think Dare did a live event in what was called at the time the Orlando Arena. I was raised and went to school in Orlando. And I remember at that time, the Orlando Magic was doing amazing. Shaquille O'Neal was playing for them. And he was one of the stars that were at this like stay in school jam. That's what it was called, the stay in school jam. It just came back to me. And the chant that they had us saying was, stay in school, it's your best move. Stay in school, it's your best move. Indoctrination, seed planting, programming. And that's the phrase I remember. Yeah.
Oh my God. That was worth that trip down memory lane. That was awesome.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so do you have a Gen X era theme song for your life?
The one that just flew into my brain was the theme from Saved by the Bell.
I can't remember what that, I never watched that show. My brother did.
You didn't watch Saved by the Bell?
Not really. Like once in a while, if my brother was watching it, I'd watch it. I love the
What was your
trajectory
show?
oh Jesus. What year was Saved by the Bell? So I don't even know. What year would that have been? I'm trying to think.
I don't even know, but here's...
Oh, yes.
It's all right, 'cause I'm saved by the bell.
I know that now. I know that
That's
song.
it. It's all right,
Yep.
'cause I'm saved by the bell.
It's got a Kenny Loggins feel to it.
It does. I don't even know who wrote it, but that's it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That's
That
hilarious.
one. Yeah, the shows and their songs were the best.
It's
It's going another. Okay.
It's a
I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, that was that had to have been like in the 80s because my brother was born in 82. So, yeah, probably
it was
or
probably
early
the
90s. Yeah.
Let me see. I don't even know. I think I was
Because I
gonna look
probably
it
would
up.
have been like in college then.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I
Gotcha.
wasn't watching a lot of TV.
You weren't. You were focused.
I was I wasn't focused. I was drinking and doing other
Drinking and
stuff.
partying. Okay, there you go.
Not time
You were into
properly.
other things. You were not saved by the bell.
Yeah. Well, and what do you most appreciate about being a Gen Xer?
I most appreciate that I've mentioned it a few times that I can straddle knowing life pre this smartphone, that I can know play and simplicity. And that I also am still in a space where I can play with it and embrace technology and the coolness of it, even though it can create a lot of havoc and danger. I can appreciate and have a healthy respect for it. I really, even though I believe everyone's life is purposed and is what it's supposed to be, the part of me that knows life previous to technology and social media feels bad for kids like my nieces and nephews who don't even understand that there was life before it, that it's so a part of their hand that I don't even know. Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate that I've existed and it feels like multiple dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
That I think Gen X has existed in multiple dimensions. That we know the slowness of days. I feel like weekends used to be so slow without technology that you really could sit into the pocket of a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I love that I can experience presence with people without needing my phone or needing to take a picture of it. So I love that.
Like we weren't taking pictures of our Fruit Loops while we were watching Saturday morning cartoons and American Bandstand. We just were in it. I think on Instagram the other day, some comedian who was a Gen Xer, and I don't remember his name, so I wish I could give him a shout out. But he was talking about like mindfulness. We grew up mindful. Like we just stood in line. You just stood in line and you didn't do anything else. You didn't check your phone. You didn't do anything else. Like we were mindful. Yeah. We don't, so it's just, as we said earlier,
like we didn't have to call it forth or remind ourselves to be mindful. You're right. We were in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm so grateful to you for so many reasons, and am so grateful. Even, and I didn't say this, we've never met in person. We've just
I feel like
developed this relationship. I know. I will get down there, and I will get to Tampa, and I will see you and Ginger. Yeah.
Yes, we got to go to GenX Tavern. Hello.
We got to make that happen. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
But thank you for who you are, for the work that you're doing in the world, for inspiring my journey, and for the impact that you're having on so many people, not just of our generation, but in general. It's really helping to make the world a better place. And I'm so grateful that I know you and get to be part of your orbit.
I'm so, so deeply grateful for you for saying yes to my crazy orbit, for saying yes that day to being coached, and just for who you are. Thank you for your tenacity, your willingness to question and to be skeptical openly, and to speak and say what others aren't willing to. I want to say to you that I love and appreciate your fierceness with which you are so willing to question BS, particularly your stand for racial inequity and your own commitment to studying and understanding and being a voice that's unapologetic about it is so admirable to me, because I've even learned things through you. So I appreciate who you are, who you be, and how you're willing to be afraid and do it anyway. And also just thank you for having me and for this beautiful conversation. I'm so grateful for you.
I am receiving that comment and that compliment, and I can't let it go without giving credit where credit is due to the Black women who I have learned from, like Maisha T. Hill, Rachel Rogers, Dr. Adia Gooden, Ashani Mfuko on Instagram. So I want to make sure I highlight that's all because of them. We gotta learn from more Black women.
Yeah,
period.
But you were willing. You weren't afraid of it. You weren't afraid of the conversation. And not only that, you could have learned and understood it and kept it to yourself, but you don't. And that is fierce courage. That is leaning into the BS with a level of amazement that I want you to recognize. I see you and I thank you.
Well, thank you, my love. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Michele.
I hope you loved that conversation even half as much as I did. And I really invite you to follow Bridgette. Make sure to check her out on Instagram. She shares amazing posts. Her stories are always really entertaining on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. And go to her website, stay up to date on when she is launching the It's All Bullshit community. Join some of those free sessions that she's going to be having so you can get a sense of the kind of work that she does. And see if you can utilize the process and the steps that she invited us into to learn how we can start to question those bullshit belief systems that we all have. Remember to download her freebie, 3 minutes, breathe and believe, for your 3-minute reset. And I want you to share with me what your reflections are. What is one bullshit belief system that you feel ready to start questioning today? Send me an email, leave a comment wherever you're listening, and please make sure to like, share, and review the podcast so that it can get out to more Gen Xers in the world and we can keep growing this movement to help all Gen Xers make a shift. And until next time, stay gold, Gen Xers.